welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton, and on this episode, we're going to visit, a friend is going to visit the Tennessee Titans this week. That would be Mr. Malik Willis and the Green Bay Packers as they come to Nashville to take on the 0-2 Tennessee Titans. And I wanted to get a little bit of perspective on the Green Bay Packers. So I brought in someone that has been green and gold over everything since I've known this man. That would be Mr. Darrell Owens. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Mike? How's everything going, brother?
Everything is going great. We're going to get into those Green Bay Packers versus the Tennessee Titans in a moment. But, of course, we're going to do the Get Off Your Chest segment. But before I do that, let me introduce you correctly. I'm sorry. That would be Legacy Sports Network CEO. Yeah, the head honcho. And you can see him on sidelines for Bowie TV Sports. You know, he's basically going to show you the game in pictures through his eyes. Something as he says on social media. But yeah, you do great work, brother. Keep on doing your thing, man. Keep on doing your thing.
I appreciate that, Mike.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But we got to get into this Get Off Your Chest segment, and I have got to get something off my chest that, quite frankly, a lot of y'all have been thinking about, but you just don't want to say it out loud. Week 2 of the NFL season, and the Saints are coming marching in. They have put 40 points up twice. They demolished the Dallas Cowboys in their own stadium, putting up 40 plus points. They beat they beat up on the Panthers at home, which of course that's another story in its own right. And God bless you, Panthers fans, because you're dealing with a lot right now. But yeah, gotta say, I mean, I did not expect to see the Saints do this. I mean, who knew that a Kubiak could fix this? Because it's Gary Kubiak's son is the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. Now, he came over from the San Francisco 49ers. His dad was the offensive coordinator when the Denver Broncos win the Super Bowls with John Elway. Yeah, so the Saints getting out here using Alvin Kamara correctly now. I'm like, wow. You got Derek Carr not making the silly mistakes when the game's on the line, because it really ain't had a game on the line yet. You got the receivers getting used, and I'm just like, okay, wow. And you got Dennis Allen that doesn't have to worry about offense, which if you know Dennis Allen and seen his career and when he was the Raiders head coach, that was rough. That was rough to watch. And in New Orleans, it's been rough to watch too, and I know plenty of Saints fans that did not like it that he was the head coach. But now you can't complain. You have an offense. You have Dennis Allen just worrying about coaching defense, and all together, it puts the Saints at 2-0, which I am very, very surprised by that. Now, do you have any thoughts on this one?
So here's the thing. I thought the Saints. My prediction at the beginning of the season, I thought the Saints would go 4-13 because of Dennis Allen. I did not think, and still technically don't think Dennis Allen is a good head coach, but he's a great defensive coordinator, and maybe he's found the strategy where it's like, okay, if I got a great offensive coordinator that can handle the things on the offensive side, and I can just focus on the defense, maybe that's the formula. But so far so good. Alvin Kamara, who I thought was starting to maybe be on the decline because of everything, because of the way they played since he's been there, or since Dennis Allen has been the head coach. This just shows you that a great overall great player under the right system or tutelage will show off. I mean, look, just throw fantasy points. He got me 60 fantasy points in one of my leagues yesterday. Thank you, Alvin Kamara. So I'm very excited to see what they can kind of do the rest of the season. And if they are going to be the team I thought they were going to be last year. So if I had them going to the Super Bowl last year, and then they truly disappointed me. But we'll see if maybe they can make a run this year.
Definitely going to see. It's going to be interesting to watch. And, what's also going to be interesting to watch is the Derek Carr talk. I remember distinctly last year, people wanting Derek Carr gone from the Saints. These are Saints fans saying this. Now he's playing well, and you have that kind of moment where it's Derek Carr, but he's playing well. So you're kind of like, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with these feelings and emotions, basically, as a Saints fan? It's going to be interesting to watch to see how that team develops. But speaking of developing, we have a developing situation in Green Bay, and that would be Mr. Malik Willis pulling off his first win in the NFL as a starter versus the Indianapolis Colts. Now, in his first start, of course, Malik went 12-14, 122 yards, touchdown, also ran for 41 yards on 6 carries. I got to ask you, what did you think of his performance?
It is exactly what was needed. My mindset going into, post Jordan Love injury was, hey, look, we've seen what Malik did in Tennessee, and then obviously things weren't great. And so for me, I was like, if they can just kind of find a way to not make him have to do so much or rely on him so heavily, like I knew that the rest of the team was going to have to pick him up and kind of get things going. But I was extremely impressed, with the I would say the consistency of his performance. I mean, it wasn't beautiful or sexy in people's eyes. You're like, he didn't go 25 for 28, but 12 for 14, for, the 122 yards and a touchdown is efficient. And sometimes being efficient is all it takes, it's all it takes. And I think what we got a chance to see from him is a young man who, unfortunately, in Tennessee didn't get a chance to get developed as a quarterback. And he just got tossed to the side as soon as they saw a shiny new toy. And unfortunately for him, or maybe fortunately for him now, he's in a place where they got the great Tom Clements there who helped bring Aaron Rodgers and was one of Aaron Rodgers' coaches throughout the years. Obviously, you can see what he's done with Jordan Love, and maybe just a hint so far what he's been able to kind of fix with Malik. So the Packers offensive line, which is pretty solid, him having time to do what he needs to do also has helped tremendously.
Definitely. I mean, I was, as someone that has actually spoke to Malik and interviewed Malik multiple times, I was very happy for that young man because, the one thing about him, even in the situations may not look great or not, he's always going to smile. He's always going to be professional, and he always has a positive outlook on everything, which I can greatly appreciate that about him. But one other person that had a great outlook, and especially had a great outlook on Sunday, that would be Josh Jacobs. Now, Josh Jacobs was out there toting the rock, especially against the Indianapolis Colts, which, this is back-to-back weeks. The Indianapolis Colts have given up great rushing games to their opponents, which that's a danger in itself. But 261 yards overall on the ground for the Packers running game. Josh Jacobs, I believe 151 of those himself. The one fumble going in the end zone, that was kind of costly. But other than that, I mean, what did you think? What do you think of his performance yesterday in terms of, or Sunday, I'm sorry, in terms of how he basically handled everything and took on the added responsibility with Malik Willis at quarterback?
Well, I think this is what Packers fans were hoping they would get with Josh Jacobs. When you lose Aaron Jones, who is a special player, and I'm not going to sit there and act like I don't still want him there, because the day that Josh Jacobs got signed and I said, oh my goodness, Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones show about to be stupid in Green Bay. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But this is what the Packers fans wanted to see from Josh Jacobs. At the beginning of the Eagles game last week, you saw a team that was Jacobs was trying to figure it out in the first half, and it didn't quite click. Second half, things got a little bit better. Now it seems like he's starting to get his footing. And, when these players don't play in the preseason, in my opinion, it takes that first month to kind of really get a chance to see what all of these teams truly have. Unless you're a young team like New England. I think that's why New England's playing so well, just to toss that out there. They played most of their players during the preseason, and it's starting to show up in these early games. But for me, I just sit there and look at it and watching him, tote the rock the way he did. Hate the fact that he fumbled in the end zone, but hey, he ran the ball 32 times, and that's a lot of times to carry the football for a running back, especially in this age of football. So I thought he did a really good job. I think once the other young guns kind of get things going and we get healthy there, the Marshawn Lloyds from USC, Emmanuel Lewis, I think they'll take a little bit of the burden off of him probably, hopefully this week around. But I like what I've seen so far. It looks really good.
It definitely is what the Packers fans want, and this bodes well for December and January football when it is cold in Lambeau, for sure. But overall, the Packers are 1-1, and Jordan Love is out. He's probably going to be out till week 5. That's what the reports are. So what do you think of this team so far, just overall, and what you got out of them?
So biggest thing for me, and I said this on Green and Gold Over Everything, shameless plug. But I said this a couple of weeks ago on the show. Last week on the show, the energy level is different. So last year going into the season, I said to myself, okay, this team, there's a lot of unknowns. We didn't really know what the receiver position would look like throughout the season. We really didn't know what Jordan Love was going to give us. We had a hint of what it could be after that Philly game the year before last. And I said, okay, maybe it's there. But it took some of those trials and tribulations through last year to get where we are now to I say, okay, I had a percentage going into last season. I said, okay, I'm about 75% on the Jordan Love train. Right now I'm at 95% because the confidence level that this team has now compared to what they had last season, especially in the early parts, is completely different. That playoff victory against Dallas, and then a game that they probably should have won against the San Francisco. But sometimes when you're a veteran team and a better team, you just find ways to win the game. And Christian McCaffrey was amazing in that contest. So I think the confidence from those two games translated into the beginning of this season. And even though they lost that game to Philly, there were times where they were in control and they were like toe-to-toe with Philly, which really gave me hope, saying that, okay, this team can compete in the NFC for a shot to go to the Super Bowl. And they're the youngest team in football. They have one player over 30. Everybody else is young guns on that team. So when you have a team that's that young, that talented, that's if you're a Packers fan or enthusiast, as I like to say, you got to be able to smile because you know that they've got something special there. Can they kind of channel it all together before everybody get too big and all these contracts and all that money go? Because at some point that's how the NFL goes. They will break up at some point, unfortunately. But yeah, if you're a Packers fan, you should be ecstatic. Once Jordan Love gets back, I think they'll be in even better shape, but that's when the schedule also gets tougher. So it's very critical that in these games where Malik Willis is starting, that they can sneak at least one more win. I said to myself, they have to be 2-2, or at least, they have to be at least 2-2, I think, in order to be in a really good spot when Jordan comes back in week 5 against the Rams, or when he should come back in week 5 against the Rams.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, and definitely I'm wondering who that player is that's over 30. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is it Preston Smith?
It might be Preston Smith. I haven't
had one more lineman too that may have been over 32, but I'm not sure.
That's the thing. Jenkins is probably about like 28 because we only drafted him a couple years ago. And then everybody else is like young. I mean, it might Wells is probably about 28, 29. He's been on the team for a couple. Myers. He's been on the team a couple years now, so he might be there. But I think it's a defensive player. I don't think it's Kenny Clark because Kenny Clark was 20 years old when he became a Packer, and I think he's like in the season 8 and he's 28. So yeah, I mean, but I'm gonna have to do a little more research. But I do know there's only one 30-year-old on the team. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Wow. I thought Jair would be closing in on it too, but I don't know. I might be mistaken. But yeah, he might. Yeah. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get into the matchup, the Titans versus the Green Bay Packers on touring the AFC South.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off of these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO beard butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these EBOs, the EBO beard butter and EBO beard wash.
All right, and we are back on touring the AFC South. EBO beard butter, going to get you some, make your beard all nice and soft and stuff, man. You first trust me, the people in your life will thank you. But getting back to the show, we're going to start off breaking down this game: Green Bay Packers, Tennessee Titans. We're going to talk Tennessee Titans defense versus the Green Bay Packers offense. And of course, to me, we're going to start not with Malik. We're going to start with Jayden Reed. Now, Jayden Reed was definitely dominant against the Eagles, doing whatever he wanted to do. This previous game, this game actually happened this past Sunday against the Colts, 2 receptions, 9 yards, had 1 carry. Wasn't necessarily as loud on the field as he was against the Eagles. So in this game, what do you kind of expect from Jayden Reed, just, given the change of the game plan and things like that?
I'd be honest with you, you might see a little bit of the same you saw last week. And my thing is, until they feel a little bit more comfortable with letting Malik probably let loose a little bit more, I expect probably about the same game plan against Tennessee. I think Green Bay will probably use their defense to hopefully, contain what Tennessee has on the offensive side, and maybe this is a defensive battle. This could be a 12-15 type of game, maybe what you saw in Washington this past week. But with Jayden, I think that they'll probably use him on a couple of run plays. They tend to do that to try to help break that offense open a little bit. And I think that a guy that you probably had to watch out a little bit more for maybe is Dontavian Wicks, because he's in that second tier of receivers, and that's who Malik will probably more likely throw the ball to majority. That's where he got his touchdown through. So those the third receiver, the fourth receiver, the fifth receiver, those guys will be kind of guys I will look at that maybe will probably have maybe a better game, or maybe someone that he'll target more because he's a little bit more comfortable with him.
Oh, yeah. Point taken. I'm interested just to see how the Titans match up with him, because obviously, to me, I think he's their best wide receiver. I do.
Yeah.
So he's the Packers' best wide receiver in my opinion. But to me, it's going to be interesting to see if he matches up with Jerry Sneed, or is it Chidobe Awuzie? Now, say that name 3 times. Okay. And then
I'm not even gonna try it once, Mike. I'm not gonna try it once.
I heard him pronounce it, and I kind of replayed it a few different times. So I've said it so many different times. So when I see him, I'm actually going to call him by his full name. He's going to be like, "Oh, okay, you got this down. You've been doing
practice, and I appreciate you for trying."
There you go. There we go. But yeah, it's going to be interesting just to see what happens, especially with the different matchups. Jerry Sneed did get got last week. He did get got by I can't remember. He did get got by Garrett Wilson one good time on a nice deep throw. So, he can be got, but nobody's got him for a touchdown yet, which
not yet.
That hadn't happened since the 2022 season. So
that's crazy. That's a good stat, though. If nobody scored on you, you're doing your thing. So
that's right. He's probably still mad. But, he's mad. He was mad going into the Jets game. You know that, right?
Oh, for real?
He was mad. He gave up 2 catches, and he was just mad. He's really, really hard on himself. So
that's a good thing.
He expects greatness every time he steps on that field. So I know after giving up that play to Garrett Wilson, I know he's going to be even more mad coming into this game.
So multiple Super Bowl championships. That kind of breeds inside of you. I think a lot of those Kansas City players that leave and go to other places, they notice that. And Eric Bieniemy was like that in Washington last year. Like, he wasn't used to players, not being on the same mindset of Kansas City players. And we saw that a lot last season with him. And I think, that's why it never worked out in Washington, they just had a different mindset.
Yeah, definitely. But of course we want to talk about Malik. Malik had his best game to date as an NFL quarterback, beating the Colts, a team that he's familiar with, being that he's a former Tennessee Titan. Now, of course, the Pack will probably look to build on that. Do you expect more of the same game plan? Maybe give him just a little bit more since he's back here in Nashville again? Or, do you kind of expect them to kind of temper things just because, maybe the excitement will be there for him and, the emotion?
I think they'll bump the game plan up a smidget. I don't think they'll go too much higher. Like I said, 14 throws in this game. Maybe you see 20 in the next one. I think they're still going to try to run the rock a little bit. I think we might see a little bit more Lloyd now that they're trying to get him, back from that hamstring. But I think they bump it up a little bit more for Malik, and I think they understand how important this game is for Malik. A lot of people, they try to downplay it. Oh, it's just another game. No, he lying.
No,
he lying. If he says that at some point this week, he's lying. He said that. That's why. I mean, when you face your old team, you want to prove them, hey, you should have never let me go. You should have gave me a chance. This and that. So in his eyes, if he can go down there, beat Tennessee in Tennessee, it's going to be icing on the cake for him, and that's going to be probably one, if not. Well, it'll be definitely the proudest moment of his NFL career so far.
That's true. Now, Josh Jacobs, of course, he's going against a defense that only gives up 92.5 yards per game of rushing. Now, of course, it is only 2 weeks, so we can't just say, hey, they're just a great rushing defense. But so far, they have been a great rushing defense. And you got Devondre Sweat or T-Pain or Meatloaf, whichever nickname you want to go with. And you also have Jeffrey Simmons in there. Big Jeff definitely clogs up some lanes. So can you just talk about the challenge it's going to be for the Green Bay offensive line to open up holes for Josh Jacobs this week?
It's going to be extremely tough. I mean, look, this Tennessee defense has been stout for a couple of years now. If they've had anything, they've had a really good defense. The offense is probably where they kind of tailed off a little bit. They've been trying to figure that thing out, but the defense has been pretty solid, and they've been the piece that's kept Tennessee in games over the last couple of years. So I know it's going to be extremely tough. And if you're Green Bay, you have a really solid offensive line led by All-Pro Elton Jenkins. So I feel like you got to find a way. It's going to be tough, but you got to find a way to try to break through here. And it may not be as vigorous as it was last week against the Colts, where you can kind of run the ball a little bit better. So it may be where maybe you're doing a little bit more screen passes and just trying to get them out of position. Anything to kind of open it up a little bit to get their minds off of that running game, and then when the time is right, boom, right through, right up the middle, or try to go up the middle.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be critical here. I think that's why I maybe see Malik getting a little bit more on the passing front, but it may be more short passes just to try to get Jacobs and the rest of those guys kind of rolling.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, you didn't hear Devondre Sweat's name very much this previous game against the Jets. The Jets did have a little bit of success running the football. So, there may be some chinks in the armor there in terms of the first 2 weeks that, Josh Jacobs could exploit and Green Bay offensive line can exploit as well. Now we're going to flip over to talk about the Titans offense versus the Green Bay defense. But of course, first we got to pay those bills, and that means a commercial break. We'll be right back on Touring the AFC South.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on touring the AFC South. Mr. Owens, we're going to get into this defense of the Green Bay Packers versus the Titans offense. Now, of course, I know Titans fans listening, it hasn't been exactly pretty offensively. Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been interesting, and a particular gentleman has not necessarily played great at all moments. That would be Mr. Will Levis. He's had good moments, but he's also had inexplicable ones as well. So, what are your thoughts on Will Levis and what you've seen from him in the NFL so far?
So, and it's like, sorry, shameless plug, but on one-on-one on my power ranking podcast that I do, we talked about at the beginning of the season. I picked like 5 players that would break out this year. I thought had a chance to break out this year, and number 5 was Will Levis. I thought with the pieces that they had around him offensively, and I like Brian Callahan as a young head coach in this league, and sometimes it may take a year or so. I don't know if Tennessee fans are going to be patient enough to wait a year or so, but
that'd be a no.
That'd be a no. And so he's one of those guys that I think he has all of the talent and the stuff that he needs in order to be a really good quarterback in this league. The question is, will it all come together? But I had him as one of the guys. I mean, with all the weapons that he has around him, Tony Pollard, and you got your DeAndre Hopkins, and you got your Ridleys and Tyler Boyds. You got pieces that I felt like, okay, the 2 young guys in the offensive line that you drafted, 2 studs, and I always say Storonsky's name. I might have said it wrong. So okay, all right, cool, and Latham. So and I feel like they're building something there, and it may just take a little time. But I thought that he could have a really good year and be, that person that's shocked. So I really have high hopes for him. I just don't know if Tennessee or I don't know if Tennessee fans are going to be able to give him the time he needs in order to grow. That's the only thing. And unfortunately, we saw with Malik. And it's tough because this franchise has had so many good quarterbacks that they've seen, tech. Even if you go all the way to Warren Moon, if you go to Warren Moon, you go to Steve McNair, who is my second favorite quarterback all time, easily. Like he was one of my favorite quarterbacks growing up. I love Steve McNair, Hall of Fame Steve McNair. Just throwing it out there, make it happen. I don't care what anybody says. Toughest player ever played a game. I know the situation was weird and all that stuff, but please, take a look at Steve McNair. And so, Vincent Young for his little stint, but he had moments. So it's like they've been trying to find this quarterback. Even Tannehill, had him at the 1 seed a couple years ago, him and Derrick Henry. They just, if they're going to be patient enough to have that quarterback, let him develop to be that quarterback he could be. But I think he's going to be good. I just hope that it comes together sooner than later. Not this week, but the following week. Yeah. I mean, after this following week, maybe, but not this week.
Well, we'll tell you that, of course, he is a second-round quarterback, so he's only got 4 years. So, this season, not only was a team that was a season where they upgraded the talent across the team, but it also is a season to see if Will Levis can be the guy. So, that's where I think many Titans fans kind of see it, and that's where I think maybe the organization may see it. I don't know that for certain, but that's where I think they kind of see it. So, we'll see if he gets anything past this year or if he makes it through the year as a starter potentially. Because if these inexplicable mistakes keep happening that are kind of self-inflicted wounds, you never know. You could see Mason Rudolph out there at quarterback potentially. That would be interesting.
It would be, but Mason had had a couple of good runs in Pittsburgh. There was some times it was a little bit rough, but you do know what you will get out of Mason Rudolph compared to what you still trying to figure out what you're going to get out of Will Levis. So Levis really has to boggle down and focus. There was times last year, with Jordan Love, and I said, okay, he's the guy. First couple games in, I'm like, yeah, he's the guy. Then there was a middle of the road, like losing to the Raiders and losing to the Broncos and losing to, games they were losing by like 2 or 3 points to teams they shouldn't have been losing to, at least in my eyes. And, you had to kind of see him develop throughout the season. And then later in the season, he's beating the Kansas City Chiefs and he's beating the Kansas City Chiefs and he's beating the Detroit Lions, 2 teams that were in the AFC and, Super Bowl champions and one in the AFC championship game. So I just look at it and say, like, and I know that's hard to Tennessee fans. Just try to give him a little time to figure it out. But I can understand if it gets to the end, they be like, "Look, man, he got to go." I understand it. I understand it. But I do have hope in him. I think he can figure it out. He's got the arm talent. We've seen glimpses. I'm like, okay, he can be good, but can they come together? So let's just hope that Callahan and the crew can figure it out. Not this week.
He said, "Yeah, I was gonna say probably not this week for your team." But but I also have to ask too. Of course, like I mentioned, they have a lot of weapons around Will Levis. One of those weapons is Calvin Ridley. He's been pretty solid so far. He definitely had his best game as a Titan yesterday. Or keep saying yesterday like I'm sitting here on Monday, Sunday. See, the days all running together.
When you look, Mike, when you're running constantly, man, that's how it is, man. I be thinking it's Tuesday and it'll be Friday, and I'm like, all right, okay.
Yeah, exactly. But when that happens, all these days run together. But Calvin Ridley definitely had a good game, had a rushing touchdown, had a nice reception for a touchdown as well on a deep pass. But of course, he's not all the weapons. Like you mentioned, Tyler Boyd, you got DeAndre Hopkins, you have Chika Kwanko at tight end. Tony Pollard's been effective in the past game, caught a 36-yard pass yesterday on a route out of the backfield. With all these different weapons, does it concern you as a Packers fan if potentially they kind of get this thing going with all these different weapons against you all?
It does. I mean, because that's the thing. I mean, that was when I saw that game on the schedule. I'm like, okay, if Levis kind of gets it going, he's got the pieces all the way around him to have an outstanding game. There's no reason why if he figures it out this week, which, like I said, I hope he doesn't. But if he does figure it out this week, there's no reason why, with all the pieces that he has, that he can't figure it out this week. They really, I give and I always may destroy it, but it's Ron Carthon, right?
Rand Carthon.
Rand Carthon. So Carthon did a really good job of putting his team together, and that I can't take away from him. Like he's trying. So Titans fans, you can't be mad because he's trying. There's some GMs out there that don't try. He's actually doing the best to try to put the best product on the field, and it may take him a little time to get it there. But he's one of those GMs I kind of have faith in. But I could see it coming together this week. And if you're Green Bay, you have to just keep a good eye on Ridley. And is Hopkins playing or is he nicked up?
He's playing. He's actually right. He was on the pitch count the first game, and the last game he was pretty much out there, but it just seemed like he was out there, but he wasn't in the vision of Levis, which was interesting. But it's another story for another day. Go ahead.
That's the thing, I was still surprised that he even went to Tennessee in the first place. But look, Tennessee got magic when they come to grabbing veteran receivers. I don't know what it is, but they just know how to pull them in. But if they can get figured out with either one of those two, Jair Alexander is gonna do his thing, whoever he goes up against. But it's the other cornerback, Eric Stokes, who's still trying to kind of find his way. He had a good first season with Green Bay, and then the injuries have really hurt him the last 2 years. So whoever he's guarding is the one that if I'm Will Levis, I'm targeting. I'm going after him and seeing if you can, poke a hole in that Green Bay defense. Now that they moved to a 4-3, thank the Lord. Now that they moved to a 4-3, because the days of the 3-4 was just out here, it was bad for years. And for some reason, nobody ever wanted to change it. So I'm hoping that on the Packers side of things that they can find a way to contain those weapons, because you can't go and say, oh man, they're playing bad the first 2 weeks, don't worry about them. No. Not when you have that talent at the receiver position. Tony Pollard, who got a contract in Dallas, I'm surprised that he's not still there. But when you see that talent, and it's Sharp, correct? I'm not be destroying names. Is that the other running back is Sharp, or is that
it's Spears, Tajay Spears?
Tajay Spears, yeah.
I would say this. He actually had an ankle injury this past weekend. Mm-hmm. So there's no guarantees he'll be out there, to be honest.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, but they have the talent around, and that's what I look at and say, if you're Green Bay, you got to be on the watch. Or you can't look at it. They're 0-2. Look past them. You just can't, because if Levis clicks, it could be a problem.
Yeah, I hear you there. And so you mentioned they're 0-2. Offense hasn't necessarily clicked right now. I mean, the defense isn't necessarily giving up a ton of points. They've been bad situations in terms of short fields and things like that. You know, they've had a punt block twice so far. They've had the punt blocked in every game, both games so far this year. So, with that being said, I mean, what do you feel is something that the Packers need to take away from the Titans offense to kind of make them, you know, kind of get them off schedule as well? But they've been off schedule a lot in some instances, but kind of just make them even more uncomfortable.
Well, I mean, if the easiest way to say it is you take Calvin, and it's not easy, but you got to find a way to keep Calvin Ridley out of the fold. He seems like he's been the bright spot of the offense so far. And if you can find a way to just kind of keep him out of the fold, and this is going to also sound crazy, but then make DeAndre Hopkins be the one that beat you, especially since it hasn't been, since they're still trying to kind of bounce him back from there. The thing is, Green Bay has always been a little bit rough when it comes to running, when a run defense. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see Tennessee try to use a lot of Pollock to try to kind of, mess with the run defense of Green Bay. And that's been a problem for over 20 plus years. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's a method that they kind of go with. But if you're the Packers, I would say if you got to find a way to control Calvin Ridley and don't let him and Levis go off. And if they can make that happen, I think they can win this game. I think I got a good feeling that they can win this game.
All right. Now, last thing I want to talk about, Skoronski and Latham. Now, Latham, a lot of people were on him about the second half versus the Bears, but I would say he had one of the better grades of a lineman this past weekend, actually, for Titans fans that are listening. He actually played well, and I honestly think he's going to be okay. You don't need to worry about him. But you got these two together with Peter. We got him and Peter Skoronski together on that left side of the line, which that seems to be their strong side. That seems to be the side they go to when they want to get something happening. The Packers defense, of course, they're probably going to put Mr. Gary over there. Probably going to put Kenny Clark over there at times. Man, how do you like that physical matchup? I mean, it's going to be a lot of pads popping, gums popping too, probably. But hey, it's going to be a lot of physical football especially on that side of the line.
Well, my thing is you got two guys who they got paid recently, and Gary got paid last year. Clark just got paid about a month ago. But Kenny has played well the entire time he's been in Green Bay, and it's rare that a Packer player gets a third contract. It's just going to be honest with you. It's very rare that they get a third contract, and he was 20 when he got there. He's on the third contract. And he's been a masterpiece, and he's been the leader of that Packers defense. Not Jai Alexander. He has been the leader of the Packer defense for years now. And when he's causing problems, it's a problem. Gary has finally come into his own the last two seasons, coming up into this season. He was trying to figure it out the first time around, but now Gary's an absolute problem. And so I think their experience is going to give those young guys a lot of trouble in this game. And Kenny is just, he's a masterpiece on the defensive line. Now, if they somehow decide to put Wyatt on there, who's been shaky, he's had his moments from time to time, that might be the best case scenario for the young guns on that side, and having to maybe deal with Luke Van Ness, because Luke Van Ness is still trying to kind of figure out his way too. But if you're going to have to deal, or even Preston Smith, because Preston Smith has been, if I'm not mistaken, in the last two seasons, he's been, one or two of the Packers' top sack guys. And I think it was either last season or the year before last where he led the team in sacks. So, and Preston Smith's been another long stay. And he is the player that is over 30. That he is the player that's over 30. There is another player who turns 30 September 26th. So there will be two players over the age of 30. But with that being said, though, that's what I'm kind of interested to see. If they go Kenny Clark and Gary, it's going to be a really tough day because they both can get after it. And Gary has really become a problem over the last year and a half.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be physical in the trenches. And, when you brought up Preston and him being the oldest Packer, the first thing I thought about was Simply Red and that song, I'm Still Holding On. I'm still holding on. I started thinking about that song, man.
That's a classic right there.
Yeah, is, man. It's like that. That's the song you sit on the porch with. Got you like that nice glass of iced tea or lemonade.
Yeah, a little Arnold Palmer.
Man, that's that song right there. But of course, we've reached the end of talking about the Green Bay versus Tennessee Titans game. I'm pretty sure you're rooting for your Green Bay Packers to win. I'm not really going to do a score prediction because I'm pretty sure you're going to expect the Titans to lose this game to the Packers, and I'm thinking the Titans may mess around and win this game. So hey, but may the best team win when it comes to.
I feel you on that. I don't do predictions. I won't do a score prediction, but so I do from time to time. We'll pick the teams, and this one's one of those like weird ones too because I want to see Green Bay win. Don't get me wrong, but it is one of those ones that it would be still kind of hard to predict. Some games you're like, oh, that's easy, but this one will still be kind of hard to predict. So yeah, I feel you on that. We'll see. I do think the Packers will win. But we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, we've reached the end of kind of breaking down the Packers versus Titans, but we don't end the show talking football. We end the show with a game. It's 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. Are you ready?
I think so.
All right. We're going to start off with one of the biggest Packers fans or one of the most popular Packers fans that anyone knows. That'd be Lil Wayne. Of course, he's not performing at the Super Bowl this year, but he's going to be a question on this contest. I like to poke a little fun, but got one song. You got to pick Go DJ or Fireman. Which Lil Wayne song are you taking?
Go DJ. And it's gonna sound crazy, but my son name is DJ, so I'm going to go DJ, and that's the deciding factor on that one. So okay, I'm gonna go that route.
Gotcha. That's a song I remember the most is Go DJ. I mean, Go DJ was catchy, man. Yeah, got the people going, as they say. Now I'm gonna talk about 2 teams that you may probably not like, but you got to pick one of them if you got to root for on Sunday.
Oh,
that would be the San Francisco 49ers or the Dallas Cowboys. Which team would you root for if you had to root for one of them?
That's tough. Well, sometimes it also would depend on who they playing on Sunday too. So if that is going to help the Packer advantage, then yes, I would go that route. But if I had to choose, and I probably would pick San Francisco, even though I don't know, Dallas, they both have given me pain over the years, both. But a lot of pain, especially San Francisco lately. Dallas has actually been more helpful to me than anything. So, but I'll go San Fran. I've always kind of had an affection for San Fran. One of my best friends is a 49ers fan, and we grew up together. So we always used to talk Packers and 49ers. And I was a big Jerry Rice guy. Love Jerry Rice. T.O., my cousin. I mean, we just.
Look how you threw that one in there, man.
Last name on. So I that's why I always kind of, I think I'd go San Francisco on that end. I go San Francisco.
All right. Now we've got to go Richard Pryor with this next one. You got to pick a movie: Harlem Nights or The Toy. Which one are you taking?
Harlem Nights. The Toy kind of made me mad a little bit. I was wanting to beat that little boy up. I wanted to fight that little boy so bad in that movie, man. No, Harlem Nights is a classic. I mean, like, there's so much greatness in Harlem Nights, so many quotable moments. And The Toy was a good movie, don't get me wrong, but that little boy made me so mad I was ready to fight him, and I can't do that. I can't do that. So yeah, I'm going Harlem Nights for sure.
Yeah, The Toy The Toy was frustrating.
Yeah, real frustrating.
You go back and watch it now. You watch it as a kid, you see it as entertaining. You see it as a grown person, you're like, nah.
He being disrespectful.
Right about that movie.
Yeah, he being disrespectful, like big time. I'm ready to fight him. Nah, bro. Like, you talking wild.
That's right. Right. All right. Next one up. You got 1 week in the summer to vacation internationally. I'm gonna throw 2 places at you. You go to Cancun in Mexico, or you go to the islands like Jamaica or somewhere like that.
Whew. If I had to choose, I think I'm gonna go to islands. That's the one thing I've always wanted to do. I always told my wife I want to go to the blue water. She's like, I said, just one time I want to go to a beach and I know Cancun has that as well, but I think I've always wanted to go to the islands, and that's been like a passion of mine. And it's got to happen at some point. I'm turning 40 this year, so it's gotta happen at some point, man.
Who knows? She might be listening and surprise you. Who knows?
She might surprise me. She might surprise me. I might surprise her. Who knows?
Hey, there we go.
There you go.
But last question I got for you. More annoying thing to deal with: people talking on their phone on speakerphone in a public place, or when they're paying for something, laying the money on the counter and looking at you to pick it up. Which is more annoying?
That's a good one, Mike. So, you about to dig into my retail pass on this one. So the phone thing I can kind of deal with because I'm unfortunately one of those people sometimes, and it's only because I'm on the run and I'm trying to I'm handling a lot of things. So I'll be a little less annoyed by that. Sometimes it depends on the conversation of people are having. But I'm going to go with the money thing for sure because it used to drive me insane. And I felt like it's the most disrespectful thing for you to take that money and just lay it on the counter. Now, maybe during COVID days, you're like, all right, okay, it's COVID. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it to touch that. Okay, cool. But I always felt it was really disrespectful because sometimes they would throw the money at you. And I'm like, okay, you're not going to throw this money at me. I ain't no stripper. So that ain't happening. You either hand me this money, because if it was me, I would respectfully hand you the money. And if I did have to throw it down and there was a reason, I would at least apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do that, because I have done it before where I put the money down, but I was trying to adjust something. I'm like, and I apologize to the person because, I worked 13 years in retail, and it's something that it's a pet peeve. It is a pet peeve. And see somebody throw some money at you. I'm like, man, who do you think I am? No stripper.
Right.
There ain't no stripper. Man. Get out of here.
Now, I will say this, I don't mind the talking on the phone sometimes, but the talking on the phone, when you got it on speakerphone right in front of you, at least put the earpiece in something.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And then miss literally half of the conversation that you're trying to tell them, hey, your total is what? And then you're like, hey, you'll pay cash or card. And then, they mess around and be like, oh, that's the price. Oh, what's going on? What happened? I thought this was this. I'm like, if you've been paying attention, I would have told you. But that's 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. You're off the hot seat. Mr. Darrell Owens, the spotlight is on you to tell everyone what are you working on, where they can find you on social media. It's all you, man.
All right. Well, look, first of all, thanks for having me on, Mike. I appreciate it. I know we get a chance every now and then to connect, and it's always a pleasure, brother. So I want to thank you for that, first of all. You can find me on Instagram and the artist formerly known as Twitter, because I still don't call it X. So shame on you, Elon Musk, for what you've done to the Twitter world.
Hold on. Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yeah.
The only X I recognize is DMX. But go ahead. Malcolm X. I'm sorry. And Malcolm X. There we go.
What you really want?
Yeah. So DMX and Malcolm X, the only X's that I recognize. There you go.
The only X's. So you can find me at DLO _ legacy on Instagram and on Twitter. And then you can find me on Facebook at Darrell Lee Owens Sr. Find me on what's the other platform I'm on? I'm on a couple of them. But you can find me on those. You can find me at Legacy Maker Sports. Or find us at Legacy Maker Sports on all social media platforms at Legacy Maker Sports, YouTube, and LinkedIn is Legacy Maker Sports Network. Also, you can find me on Bowie Television with the amazing Candy Waller. We cover the Washington Commanders, and we travel around to figure out what that team gonna do from week to week. So but you can find me on all of those platforms, and like Mike running around like a track star.
I will tell you this though, I can't call it Candy Waller. I got to call her Madam President.
That's right. That's that. I told her, she's like, the first time I gave it, I'm the one that gave it a nickname. And so when I see her, I'm like, Madam President, how are you doing today? So you got to call her Madam President. Got to call her Madam President.
That's right. That's right. She's running things over there at Bowie TV for those that don't know.
Yes, she is.
But yeah, that is, of course, Darrell Owens. My name is Mr. Mike Patton. I'm the host of Touring the AFC South. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter, word to Prince, at Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton 82 on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Of course, Instagram and Threads, you can find me there at that's THE, not THA, not THE, _general _MP. Touring the AFC South, you can find on the Mike Patton Network, as well as on all listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it. We are there. I want to thank you all for tuning into this episode of Touring the AFC South. I'm your host, Mike Patton. We're out. Peace.